All right, and we're live. Jay, what is up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
You alive and well.
Yes, yeah. So I am still recovering from that one chip challenge, and I still am sticking to my guns on this. That this is arguably, or not this, but this was arguably one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life. How are you feeling, man?
I will never let you what's the word I'm looking for? Like, damn, I just had I'm still messed up from the chip challenge. I will never let you influence me on a fucking chip challenge or any type of challenge ever again, because that was the worst day of my life.
Yeah, probably not one of the more brighter things I've ever thought about, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but we got through it. Albeit with a little bit of heartburn, a little bit of stomach pain,
Tums in the
some
back
night sweats, Tums. But more importantly, man, I am super excited because we have a special guest tonight, man. And do you want to do the honors of introducing who we have tonight?
Yeah, we got a big time guy in the house today. We brought something good out here for you guys. We got our guy Lou Geneux. Did I say that right?
It's good enough for me.
Yes. Oh.
So you know what's crazy? I know offline you kind of prepped us on what's the proper way to pronounce your last name.
And that's wild that he immediately messed it up after I said what it was.
Damn. Okay.
So for the people out there, what is the correct pronunciation of your name?
Okay. The correct pronunciation of my name is Geneux, kind of like J-U-H. It's phonetically J-U-H-N-E-W. Geneux.
Geneux. So it's Lou Geneux. Mm-hmm. So you know what's interesting? I was talking to Jay about this, and I have a theory, and I'm curious to see what your take is on this theory. But I think you could tell a lot, specifically in professional sports, when it comes to somebody's name. So, for example,
of course,
right? Like I think, for example, like your name to me sounds like a Pro Bowler. It sounds like someone who is a Hall of Fame player. And I've spoken to Jay about this, and I'm like if you listen to the names of these professional athletes, right? LeBron James, right? Patrick Mahomes, Steph Curry. These
Deion
people's
Sanders.
Names, right? They have impact, right? But then when you think about other names, you could tell if someone's going to be a bust. For example, in basketball, Kwame Brown, bust, bust. We're Giants fan, but even Daniel Jones to me sounds like a field magician. It just. So what's your take on that, Lou? Is that the first time you've heard this theory?
I subscribe to this theory in sports for sure. Everyone you hear like quarterback name, but sometimes it doesn't work out, right? There was a guy in college whose name was Gunnar Kiel. He was a quarterback in the SEC, or I think he was in the SEC. He might have transferred. When I first heard his name, I'm like, oh, that kid's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Turns out he wasn't very good. But you're right. Like a good name really sets the tone and really puts you in a place where people are feeling pretty good about you, which I'm glad to be one of those people.
Yeah, no, for sure. I could tell that this man is if I saw your name, behind the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I would say, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but in reality, I'm a complete disaster and just trying to figure it out like everybody else. Just a complete nightmare 24/7. But I do my best.
No, you definitely do. And you're a busy man. I was, me and Jay were doing research on you, man. And you've been on different podcasts from, Coach HP to Den Corners to Slab Talk. And,
how international.
Yeah, man. I think I heard him on an Australian podcast the other day, too. And it's dude, do you have it? Are you not tired? Are you not tired by now?
The funny thing, most of those shows are card shows. So,
okay.
Yeah, shout out to Double Coverage in Australia. Those are my guys. They got me into F1. So I do a lot of sports card shows. I just try to talk to as many people as I can, so I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit, but sports cards is kind of my favorite thing to do. So anytime I have the opportunity to talk to somebody about that for a while, I'm more than happy to do it, right? Whether it's you're saying it's Australia, Wrestling Card Foundation was another one because I love wrestling when I was a kid. I wasn't that big into the cards, so I wanted to talk to them. So I'm down to have a conversation with anybody at any time.
Do you ever get tired of it though? Because and this is the thing that when we were trying to prep for this specific meeting, is how do we kind of take a different approach? Because in the other podcasts that you've been, and shout out to them, I'm not trying to knock them by any means, but it's sort of the same questions always get asked. So do you get tired of kind of answering those same questions about your background, what got you into cards, etc.?
No, because I don't think I'm that interesting of a person. There's not that many things to talk to me about, but I also think it's kind of the same stuff. It's all sports cards and where I work and all that good stuff. So I no, never at all. And it's also like it's constantly evolving. Like the way I think about stuff, especially sports cards, constantly adapts because it's a constantly adapting hobby and industry. So it's actually cool to have little time capsules of my perspectives, and that's kind of my favorite part about Card Talk is we joke about it with Ryan and Tyler. Like we go back and look at old posts from like 2 years ago and we're saying like the most outrageous things of all time about these guys. Like I think, I've had my fair share, but like Tyler on our show is like obsessed with Michael Porter Jr. I was a big Jalen Hurts guy. That one happens to be working out right now. Ryan has his stuff. So that's the way I think about it. It's more of like a time capsule of my perspective. So no, I don't really get tired of it, I guess.
That's an interesting take. And so like, I kind of hate to be like the other podcasts where they ask you like the same questions.
No.
But I feel like for our listeners, though, it's important that they get to know you on a personal level. So
sure.
Who are you? And obviously you mentioned Card Talk. So kind of take us through how you got to that specific podcast.
Sure. So my name is Lou Geneux. I am from Bergen County, New Jersey. I have been lucky to find myself in a position where I work at the company I work with. I work at this company called VaynerMedia. I've been there since 2012. Well, I interned there going into my senior year of high school, so 2011. And then right after high school ended, I started working at Vayner in the summer of 2012, and I've been there ever since. And that's, again, constantly been like really evolving. I really grew up at Vayner. I think of Vayner as like my college experience. So I started there as a community manager, just trying to figure it out. I was a complete dope, complete bozo, had no idea what I was doing, working with a bunch of adults every day, going into New York City. That was my opportunity to grow. And then I sort of was working my way up there. I had the regular career path. I was a community manager, like I said. Then I was an account executive. Then I was a senior account executive. I looked into going into a media role. I looked into going into a creative role. I even looked into going into an HR role. Like I've tried a million different things at that place. Are you guys in HR?
Well, I'm in HR.
Obviously, Jay's not. You're in HR. Well, Jay might be the HR guy for the shop. I don't know.
Yeah.
I see how they talk in there. Him and Johnny go at it a little bit, so maybe he's not the right guy for the HR. Shout out to Johnny. But yeah, so I was there for a long time, and I kind of was not peaking, but I'm the kind of guy who gets like really bored really fast with things. So I'm lucky enough to know Gary. I've known Gary for over 20 years now. He and my father used to work together. My dad was a liquor distributor in New Jersey, so he sold wine to Wine Library, which was Gary's first business he ran with his father for a really long time. And so I moved into his team, and it was kind of like, hey, I don't know what I want to do really, but I know I want to be closer to you. So anything I can do in that world is interesting to me. So I joined his team. I worked on a bunch of little projects. I helped him launch his baseball card set in Topps in 2018, I think it was. Helped him with his shoe launch, helped him with this, that, and the third. And then it kind of, along that same pathway was when I got into card, but that's a whole separate story I'm sure we can go into. Around 2018, late 2018, summer of 2018, it kind of came up of, hey, Gary's looking for a new assistant. Tyler Schmidt was in that role before me. He's a legend. And he was moving on to greener pastures. So I got the opportunity to step into that role along with Alex Raffington and a few others. And I had that role from 2019 full-time until 6 months ago, where I moved into a new role. During that time was COVID, obviously. In summer of 2019, I went to my first card show, the National Card Show, which is the biggest collector convention that there is. There's tens of thousands, sometimes they always get very close to hundreds of thousands. I think it was 80-something thousand for the whole weekend last time around in Chicago. And I was at that show, hanging out, having a good time, and we were there selling stuff. I was walking around the show with Tyler, who was now in a different role, but still on the team, still very close with Gary and all that stuff. And it was kind of like, hey, there seems to be like some white space here, right? Like there's nothing, there was card shows that existed, and shout out to all the people who have been in the hobby for a lot longer than I have. But a lot of the content was very data driven, if that makes sense. And very, not collector focused, but it didn't have like a wider lens. And that's kind of the way that I tend to think about stuff. So, we got home from that show. COVID happened. We were home. There was nothing to do. And we were kind of like, hey, let's just do it finally. Like me and Tyler were like, let's just do it. And the first person we thought to ask was Ryan Johnson, Card Collector 2, who ended up doing it with us, thankfully. And, it's just been a rolling from there, every week. So that's kind of the disjointed version of how I got to Card Talk.
Yeah, no, that's super dope. And before we get into you, I have to ask my co-host here, because I don't even know have you ever collected cards, Jay?
I did for a very short moment, but it was only one sport.
Was it football?
No. Ironically, no.
Wow.
Basketball, right?
Basketball.
Yeah, I think you were telling me about that.
It was basketball. It was like a lot of Bulls. It was like, when the Bulls were the Bulls. And I just went after like
late 90s, right?
Yeah. But that was like a short phase, bro. That shit died after a summer.
Totally. Yeah, I was the same way. Like when I was a kid, my initial entry into cards was the summer of LeBron getting drafted, right? So 2003, I used to go to card shows with Gary, my dad, Gary's brother AJ, and their friend Brandon. We would just go around looking for LeBrons. And I was into it for like a year or two while my dad was in it. But then like anything else when you're a kid, you just get bored and move on with your life. So
yeah, it was like what do you do with that?
Yeah, which was interesting, right? Because I think,
well, now in retrospect, I wish I had some of those cards.
I can show you some auctions. I don't know.
Which is interesting, right, Lou? Because I think at a certain point you stopped kind of getting into the card world, but it looks like once you started working for VaynerMedia, Gary kind of brought you back into that world. Is that correct?
So, like I said, Gary, I was a part of the journey with them in the early 2000s. And then I just so happened to be back at Vayner, and Gary had gone to a card show in 2017 was when he went back. And then when he came home from the show that summer, he was like, this is everything. Like, I'm obsessed with this. Let's have some fun and do it. And it's also like, Gary and I are always trying to find ways to spend more time together because he's an unbelievably busy guy. So anything that I can do to spend time with him, I think is fun for me. So that was kind of how I ended up getting back into it.
So what is it about the card collecting piece that is so lucrative and attractive to many people? I know obviously there's that monetary factor, but is it sort of like that rush when you open up a booster pack and you get a holographic card? Is that kind of what motivates people to collect these cards? There's
a lot of different factors. And I think the world we're in today in cards is very different than it was a year ago. I definitely want to be mindful that I don't, I'm speaking generally about the thing, and it obviously has had a very big growth over the last 3-4 years. But the last year really, and especially the last 6 months, along with the rest of the world, there's been some very interesting cliffs and valleys for some of these cards, because when there's a gold rush in something, the music has to stop eventually and prices vary. So trying to be mindful of that and being respectful to all those people who have been involved in cards for so long, I would say it's really threefold. There's one part of it where there's investing, right? Where people are collecting high-end stuff. There's a whole high roller end of this hobby that even I don't really dive into that much because I don't have millions of dollars to spend on stuff. So there's that part where people have these super rare Justin Herbert, one-of-one national treasures, shield auto, which means nothing to you guys, but it's the best possible card you could have, right? And then there's also young kids who are flipping, trying to make money, trying to learn how to be an entrepreneur and learn how to do stuff with their own money and all that. Then there's the collector aspect, which I've definitely fallen more into recently, and always kind of was, where it was you have your teams, you have your favorite players, you have your favorite shows, whether you like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or, there's Kim Kardashian cards that you could buy, right? So
is there really?
Yeah, dude, and they're expensive. So there's a lot of that stuff.
Yo, they're just fucking gold all around, bro.
Yeah, and then there's also a part of it where it's kind of fun to call your shot in a way, right? So I bought a Jalen Hurts 2 years ago because I was like, oh, Jalen Hurts is pretty good. And then when you own that card, you're like, hey, I called it. You know what I mean? That's sort of part of it too. But that's just being a sports fan.
Yeah. So it's like bragging rights as well, sort of, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's like bragging rights. Hey, I was on this guy early.
No, it makes sense. And so you mentioned a lot of things here, and obviously you collect Pokemon cards, right? Which I heard in one of the other podcasts that you were quite fond of. So if you were to list, I guess, in order of what you enjoy more, would it be sports cards first, then Pokemon? Or do you collect Magic cards? So it's sports number one.
It's definitely sports number one. Pokemon has the biggest nostalgia for me, just because when I was a kid, I was a huge Pokemon card kid. Like, shout out to my parents who would just take me to the store and buy me packs of Pokemon cards all the time. Like, I had unlimited numbers of Pokemon cards. So, and I loved the show, the anime, whatever. Played the card game even when I was with my friends. So that will always hold a special place in my heart. But like even like today, it's definitely more sports cards. It's football, F1, baseball. Hockey I've gotten back into now. So yeah.
Your favorite sport is football for the cards?
My favorite sport is football for cards, yeah.
You know what's crazy though about the whole Pokemon thing though, but I feel like for a lot of people and not that I want to generalize, but I think that was sort of like the introduction to card collecting for a lot of kids, right? Because I know that was, like Jay, did you ever collect Pokemon cards, Jay?
Yeah, very briefly though. Like I found them with it, got the kits, the little packs. Open, get a little Charizard. I didn't get the $1 million Charizard, but
I'm trying to. I'm literally looking for my cards as we're talking here. I'm trying to so I can pull them up on the screen. Anyway, keep going.
No, so that's interesting, right? Because I feel like when it came to like card collecting growing up, and I collected a lot of Pokemon cards, and I kept my collection. And this is another segment that we'll touch base a little bit later. But it's like you sort of learn some rules, right, as you're kind of navigating through that trade world, where it's like when you see two people that are about to trade cards, one of the things that people usually say is, "Don't fuck up my trade." Right. Mm-hmm. In other words, like, don't make any noise or say, "Hey, don't fucking trade. That's a dumbass trade." Yeah, like more or less. Yeah. Right. No, like, don't cock block. So does that sort of exist in the card trading world today? Like, are there unwritten rules?
Yeah, it's just like anything else, right? Like, you're trying to be respectful. You don't want to, like, if someone's working on a deal, you don't come over the top and be like, "Hey, I'll give you $20 more." Like, that's kind of a scumbag move. Like, that's scumbag. That would piss me off if someone did that to me.
But I'm sure that happens, though, right? Like, I'm sure.
Sure, but that's down to the seller, right? And then that's also an interesting part of this too, because I've actually never really expanded on this before. There's something too where the world today is very like no one is looking for like arguments in a way, right? So people don't know how to negotiate with each other. People don't know how to talk to each other. So when you're the seller, there's a level of respect you need to have for your buyer where you're working on a deal with them that you don't go behind their back and try to make another deal with somebody else so you can squeeze another 10, 15%. We talk about that a lot too, where it's like leave some meat on the bone for everybody. People need to be able to make deals and like operate without fear of more money coming over the top later, or like a secret charge. Like if you get a phone bill and it's like, "Hey, there's another $40 charge for a Verizon fee," you're like, "What?"
roaming
yeah,
charges.
So it's like that, right? You have to just be respectful. It's just a general respect thing on the seller end of learning how to operate in like business.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that people today are afraid of arguments? Is it just because everything's like in your face now, where like if you get into an argument with someone, it's going to go on YouTube right away?
For sure. And then I think just in general, people are like not they're not good at like conflict. Argument probably wasn't the right word, but just like conflict resolution, people aren't very good at, and negotiating is like just a generally good skill to have as a human in the world. And even for me, like when I first started doing cards, I wasn't even negotiating prices because I was like too nervous to go back and forth with someone. Like you don't want to like upset them. You don't want to insult anybody, or like you want to buy a car, you don't walk into I mean, maybe now you do because of how it works, but like you don't walk into a car dealership and be like, "Oh, this is the sticker price deal." Like that's not how it works. So those type of things, that was kind of what I meant. Like people aren't very good at dealing with in-person interaction. You know what I mean?
Bargaining.
Yeah, that definitely is a skill though, for what it's worth. Like I'm a terrible fucking bargainer for what it's worth.
Yeah, most people are not very good at it because you don't learn how to do it.
I'm aggressive.
Oh, you're one of those people?
Big time. Yeah. Jay's definitely like a low baller kind of guy.
100%. Bro.
Yeah, I could definitely fucking see that. Yeah, no, I'm terrible. Like I'll travel out of the country and shit, like, on vacation, and it's sort of like I'll pay retail because it's just
you're
like
the guy they crush, huh?
Yeah.
They see the dollar signs when they see
it. They walk up on you and they're like, "How much is this?" And then they like add like 20% on top.
Yep.
Probably. Yeah. And in certain cases, it's sort of I'm just like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. And then like my wife, my wife would be like, "Why? Like what? Like why don't you like try?" I'm like, you know what? Like it just.
On the other side of that, my wife is actually stop. Like you're embarrassing me. I'm like, girl, I'm trying to save us money right now.
Yeah,
you're too aggressive. Like you're too aggressive.
But you know what it is though. I think for me, and this is why I tell you not to get, well, obviously not in HR, but you were thinking about it and why you should never get into HR is because most of my day consists of arguing with people.
Sure.
Or in certain cases, negotiating. So it's sort of like I'm not trying to do that on my own fucking personal time.
Totally.
Right? Like it's fucking stupid. But kind of diving back into the conversation here in regards to specific trades, what would you say is one of the worst trades that you ever witnessed live?
That's tough. I don't want to call anybody out.
No names.
Give them names, or you give them random names that don't even
No, it's hard because like I'm thinking about specific card deals. I'll give a story of myself. Actually, this is a good story. So this is before I was into cards. I was into sneakers like 2010, 2011, 2012, like right after high school. The first thing I did actually when I had a salary was like try to flip sneakers. And this was like before the Nike app and all that stuff where it was literally like, remember they used to do Twitter raffles? I don't know if you guys are into sneakers like that, but they used to do raffles on Nike, like on their Twitter account, and you would DM them with like your size or whatever. So, okay. So do you remember Dorchenbear or whatever? It's like the children's hospital.
Sounds familiar.
Okay, so they did a pair of Dorchenbear 5s. It was Jordan 5s, and I won the lottery. So I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to cash out here. This is huge. I get connected with a guy in sneakers in New York, and he's like trying to buy them off me. He was basically a shark. Like he would just come in and just destroy people for a living. I didn't know this at the time, but he would come in and just destroy people, especially people like me who had no idea what they were doing. So I think at that time the shoes were worth like $5,000, $5,500. So wow. I'm like, all right, bro, like I'll sell you them. I want $5,500 for them though. And he basically says, no, I'm not going to do that. Like whatever. I'll give you $2,000 and you can get 3 upcoming releases from me. No questions asked at retail price. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is awesome. Cause I'll get whatever I want. I'll get my I paid $150 for the shoes or whatever, $225 for the shoes. I'll get my $2,000 and I'll get upcoming releases. And at that time, and someone will say if the timeline was wrong, I want to say the Red October Yeezys were coming out like after that.
Oh man.
So I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to get a pair of Red Octobers out of this. This is great. So I go to, it wasn't Nike Town. It was the one in Soho. I forget what it was called. It was like Nike Lab or something like that. So I go and I get the shoes. I meet the kid. I make the sale, whatever. I'm driving home and I'm like, I definitely just got smoked. There's no way this guy's ever going to hit me back again. And I had never heard from that guy again. I never got my 3 pairs. I never got my Red October. It was very, very sad. So that is my worst trade of all time.
Do you think, because I feel like when it comes to trade specifically or collecting for that matter, I feel like everyone goes through that one moment specifically, like your specific moment where that sort of kind of takes you back, right? Like, did you think at that point where you were just like, you know what, like, fuck it, I'm done with this. I'm done with sneakers. I'm done with this. I'm not doing this shit anymore. Just because that there's people out there that are complete fucking assholes.
I don't do sneakers anymore, so I guess the answer was yes to that question. But no, at the time, no. I took it as a lesson. That's kind of how I take it. I used to be a lot more of, I used to just assume the world worked a certain way and like people wouldn't do wrong by you. And I've kind of come to realize that most people are trying to rip other people off because they're pieces of shit. And not that guy was a piece of shit. He was just doing business, and like that's how he did business. I probably never hit him back because I was uncomfortable and I felt bad about it. So whatever, probably big miscommunication. But a lot of people are trying to take advantage of other people, especially in cards. It happens to this day. So for me, I don't. What I try to do is I try to stay out of the fray because I think online these days there's a lot of, especially in cards, there's a very negative connotation to a lot of conversations where people are just talking about money, and either you're mad at somebody for making money, or you're mad at somebody for not giving you a good deal, or you're mad at one of the card companies because the card values are going down because they print too much of it. And like everybody wants it their way or the highway. And like, that's just not how the world works is kind of what I've come to realize. So I try to just stay out of the fray and stick to myself and stay within my own little bubble. And I think that's the only way I'm able to continue to enjoy things, because the world we live in today is very, like you said before, 24/7, 365, everything's in your face. So you either need to be able to tune it out or just disengage. And I can't tune it out. Like I'll get in my own head about it. So I just disengage.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, like it's definitely like a dog-eat-dog world, I think, when it comes to card collecting or sneaker collecting for that matter. I think I tried to get into the whole sneaker collecting and selling for maybe like about 2 months. Yeah. Until I realized that the profit wasn't worth it. And then like you're competing with these other bots, you know? So like for the most part, yeah, like it's like the bots are going to win everything, right? Like I'm thinking about the latest sneaker that probably dropped maybe a month ago, the Travis Scott Mochas, right? Like that was the hottest thing in the streets, and you go into the sneakers app and you know you're going to take the L, but you go for it anyways, and sure enough,
try every time.
I'm
like 0 for 1,000. I still haven't seen the got him screenshot. Like,
I don't even have the sneakers app on my phone. That's how.
Just save your data, bro. Just save your data. You're fine.
Yeah, I just am not. I'm not about that life anymore. So I just don't even bother, because sneakers is crazy. There's so many people in sneakers now.
It is. It's fucking crazy. And so, like, do you have to deal with the same experiences in the card world? Like, is there specific cards where there's a limit and you kind of have to sign up? So what's like the last card that you tried to go for that you didn't get?
For the record, it's the exact same thing. There are bots, there are Discord groups that have bots that get all the new releases. It's the exact same thing. Anytime there's anything online, I'm sure it's the same thing with Funko Pops or whatever. You know what I mean? Like anything where there's a limited number, there are going to graphics cards for computers. That's a huge thing that people use bots for, and they resell the graphics cards. So it's the exact same thing. What's the last release that I tried to get that I couldn't get? So there's this thing called White Sparkle. It's like a super rare subset that comes out inside of Panini Prism. They release the packs separately. You have to go on the Panini app, you have to get it, and if you don't get it, they're gone, and they're thousands of dollars for the packs. I missed out on those packs because I was busy, so I just missed them. But it's that kind of I don't even bother with releases anymore. Like, I really don't. I try to stick to singles and I try to stick to singles, because the box game, like the buying boxes and wax is what they call it, that is not my game. I don't have the time for that. Or honestly, I don't have like the capital to just like throw money at box releases like that, because they're thousands of dollars.
Those
Depends.
Box releases, like retail?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about Panini, like, give an example, Panini Prism is like the main release that comes out every year for basketball and football. I think that's like a $1,200 box.
$1,200?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna look it up right now. I'll tell you how much it costs.
I'll take my chances with $200 Jordans.
So that's I mean, like this has become a thing in cards where like people are getting priced out and like you can't afford to buy them anymore.
Like, what the fuck? I didn't even know that was damn.
Yeah, like I didn't think that, the card collectors had to deal with like a similar bot situation.
You gotta basically be like rich to do these cards.
So here's the other thing. They've started this new thing called Dutch auction, which is they will set it starts at $5,000, right? And then it basically just goes down by the hour by $100 until the boxes are sold. So you could pay any amount you want. So it's basically a waiting game to get to a certain amount. So it goes from 5,000, might not be the right number, but it goes from 5,000 down. Once it gets to around 1,200, everything gets filled up immediately and it's gone. Some people buy at 15, some people buy at 16, some people buy at 12, and then it's gone. You'll never get anything for under 1,000 in that world. That's pretty much how it works now, because breaking has become such a big part of cards, and breakers buy up everything. And then you could buy into pieces of stuff. So like you buy only the Jets cards out of a box, and you watch somebody break it, and then you get those Jets cards. Crazy,
wow. Right? Yeah, like this is like,
yeah, it's insane, to be honest.
Yeah, like holy shit. And the thing is, like you're throwing all these different words that obviously
I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm using a lot of
it's but this is good though, because this is, I find this interesting. So like you're obviously very knowledgeable when it comes to this. So like where does this come from? Like, is this just years of experience?
Yeah, it's just experience, and like I've been around it for so long now that you can kind of do it in your sleep a little bit. Not necessarily that I'm like smarter than anyone else. Anyone who's in cards kind of understands this stuff. It's literally just, tools of the trade. I'm sure Jay knows all these random like razors and shit that I don't know. You know what I mean? Same kind of stuff.
Yeah,
metaphor.
For real, right? Like some kind of like hair product I don't know about. Like, I don't know.
No, that is a good point, because I know yesterday Jay was cutting my hair, and I think he was using the scissors and he almost dropped them, and he was like, "Oh, I almost dropped my $900 fucking scissors," and he might have been fucking exaggerating.
No, I'm not. Those shits got insurance, Poppy. Those shits are insured.
Like a razor with insurance. I have insurance on my cards. It's that same kind of thing,
Yeah, bro.
Which I was going to ask. That was going to be my next question. Yeah, I didn't know that there was actual insurance for the cards.
Oh, we're talking about not for me, but people have hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of a collection. You have to insure that. You'd be crazy not to.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. So what's the rarest card that you have in your collection?
I actually just put it up for auction. It's it's going to be on auction next week. It's a Max Verstappen, who is an F1 driver, gold rookie, his rookie card from their 2012. So the gold is out of 50, and it's a PSA 8. It's PSA is a grading scale from 1 to 10, 8 being obviously very good. There's only, I think, 4 graded higher than mine, so it's a pretty expensive good card. Another one I have that's super rare is I have Elijah Moore, who plays for the Jets.
I saw that post.
Yeah, so
that went viral. That's the on Twitter, right?
Yeah,
where
so
you saw him at training camp. Sorry,
yes, exactly. So I was at the card show in Chicago this summer, and I came across the guy who owned, or in Atlantic City this summer, and I came across the guy who owned the 1/1 Elijah Moore autograph. So I bought that off him. Not the most expensive by far, but definitely my rarest.
So, like, let me ask you this, right? Because I feel like when it comes to cards specifically, to me, sometimes there's an emotional attachment. So,
Definitely.
Do you feel some type of way about putting these cards up for sale? Like, is there a card that you sold that you regret to this day?
Definitely. Tons.
So there's tons. So which ones?
Not like one. Yeah, I've been heartbroken many times.
Yeah, you know how it's just you get over it, right? But it's the class, especially like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, where it was like everything was printing money pretty much. I would sell something, and the next week it would sell for 50% more, and it's like fuck. I don't know if I can curse on here, but like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Shit, fuck away.
Shit. It's just like, damn. Like I bought a card for $50. I graded it, and I sold it for like $600, and then 3 weeks later, the card was like $1,800.
Stop.
So like that's the kind of stuff that you deal with. Not so much anymore because, like I said, it's slowed down a lot and it's different now. But there was a time period there where you would sell something, and then the next person who sold the same card would sell it for 40% more than you did, and you're like, damn.
And this is a good segue for the thing that I wanted to do on the show tonight. And
Sure.
and this is probably going to pain my soul once I kind of pick Lou's brain here and he tells me what like the ultimate amount is for everything.
Oh, so these are going to be your cards from your childhood. I have bad news for you. They're probably worth nothing. Let's go.
Oh, okay. So they're worth nothing.
Most likely they're worth nothing.
Okay, no, listen, that's better news that I wanted to hear.
Good.
Because if you would have told me they were worth something, then I would have fucking cried.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you a couple cards.
Okay.
If you can possibly just take the listeners through what you look for as a collector, what gives that card that specific value, and how much you would have bought it for. Okay. Sounds good?
So I'll say this. There's going to be certain stuff that I don't know off the top of my head. Like I'm just going to check up like comps, which is just like, comparable sales. But if there's anything I know I could like speak to it a little bit, I'll do that for sure.
Okay, cool. So these are going to be strictly Pokemon cards. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Bear with me for 1 second. I feel like I'm at work right now.
You've been talking about work a lot today, bro.
Listen, man, I got to travel to fucking Connecticut tomorrow, and I'm dreading this shit. So, all right. So this is the first card that I had in my collection. So can you just tell the people what you're seeing and what you're looking for if you were to buy this?
Okay, so this is a Pokemon card, Charizard, from the base set. So this is not the first edition. This is not the Shadowless. First edition, there is a little first edition stamp on the bottom left or right. I'm going to get it wrong, so let me just get it right here while I'm sitting here. But the other thing is Shadowless. So if you see on the right side of Charizard's wing there's the little yellow line, and then behind that, it's kind of like a drop shadow, right?
Yep.
So in the early days of these cards being printed, they had no shadow, which is why it's called Shadowless. So all first editions are Shadowless, but not all Shadowless are first edition. And then there's neither, which is the base set, which is what you have. So this card probably at the peak was probably like if it graded well, was probably like a $700 card. Now that card's probably worth like $20. Again, extremely condition sensitive. It kind of looks like there's some scratches on the left side there on the hologram. If you look to the left side, sounds so crazy that I'm explaining this to you guys and you have no idea. This is very funny for me. The left side of his wings, you see the two lines there? They look like scratches.
Yep.
That would probably dramatically hurt the grade of the card, which would make it probably like a 6 or a 7, which really hurts the grade. So a PSA 7 Charizard base set that currently sells for, pretty decent, actually. I might have been wrong.
Please don't tell me that. I'm about to cry.
If it's a PSA 7, it's a $330 card.
Oh, God.
That's a card note.
Right.
If it's a PSA 10, however, if it's a PSA 10, 1999...
Now, does the back of the card also matter? Because
the back of the card certainly would help. It would definitely determine for grading purposes.
So this is the back of the card.
You're hooked on this one. This is bad.
Yeah. You can't even get a bag of nuggets for this shit.
So let me explain why. So let me explain why. Wait, there's no way that's right. Sorry, I might just be wrong on these Pokemon cells right now, but I don't think I am. So, on the right side, you see all this whitening over here?
Yeah.
That's bad. Whitening is bad news bears. That is the death knell for any grading submission. But that just means you played with it. That just means it's your card. You should love that card and appreciate that card forever.
That means it has more value to him than anybody else.
That's correct.
That's what I just got from that.
Well, no, that's real, by the way. Like, I have a lot of Pokemon cards that I can't sell that I just am keeping in my own collection just because they're mine, you know?
Well, so the funny thing is, I don't know if I've ever played this card, though. I think this might have been something that I traded for when I was younger.
Possible.
And yeah, I think that's what it was. And so funny story about this, about a Charizard card for that matter. So when I was younger, my parents would not allow me to go to the fucking store. That's kind of typical thing growing up in a Spanish household where like you have to be like fucking of legal age.
Listen,
step out of your
my
home
mom
by
was the
yourself.
exact same way. And I'm white
Oh,
as
was
shit.
she
Go to
really?
the bodega, 18
Yeah.
years old.
I think that might be.
Soda.
I think my mom got that from like her Hudson County background, though. So
We grew
shout
up
out
in
to my
Hudson
mom.
County.
Yeah,
There
same
you go.
thing.
We grew up in Hudson County. Yeah. So I had a friend of mine by the name of Giovanni, and I'm gonna fucking call him out because he was a fucking asshole for this. But
Nigga bringing all the smoke.
Yeah,
Just
listen,
absolutely
clearly-
smoking this kid. Jesus.
yeah, clearly this is a traumatic experience for me. And for the record, guys, I can't see your face because I'm staring at this Pokemon card. But anyways, so he's like, "Hey, I'm going to Nightmare Comics." And Jay, I don't know if you remember Nightmare Comics, which was the place to go. Right. So that was the place to go. So I said, "Okay, listen, I saved up my money and I gave him money to buy me a booster pack." Right. So he goes to the store, comes back, and my booster pack that he had for me was opened.
Savage.
He
And
smoked
so-
you, huh? That's tough.
He smoked me, yeah. So like the funny thing is, I'm young, I'm naive. I'm like, he's like, "Oh, dude, I couldn't contain myself. I just wanted to see what you got." And so he gives me my cards, like in the booster pack, and I just take it on. I'm like, "All right, I didn't get anything." And he's like, "Yeah, dude, you didn't get anything interesting. Sorry."
Nah, he took all your good shit out of there for sure.
He
That nigga
took
shuffled
all
that
my good
shit.
shit.
Oh,
So
he's
no,
like,
so
good, bad,
good, bad.
So funny enough, though, years later, and we're talking about like 10 years later, I guess the guilt finally got to him, and he finally came up to me. He's like, "Yo, dude, you remember that booster pack I bought you many years ago?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "This has been eating me my entire life." And I'm like, "Okay." He was like, "I actually pulled a first edition Charizard card from that fucking booster
A
pack."
first
and I took it.
edition.
First edition.
Oh,
What a
that's
punch.
like
He could've been bullshit.
like I would be at that kid's neck. The peak of that card was like $500,000.
Please, Lou, do not tell me that because I would find this motherfucker.
Oh, dude. I mean, like to give you like some real context, like, and 2 years ago, the first edition Charizard PSA 10 was selling not with regularity because it's a very low population card, and we could talk about card populations. That's very nerdy, but 300, 350, 400. I know a sale at 5. Like that was happening.
That's life changing.
But that's PSA 10.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
Perfect card, extremely hard to come by. That type
not
of
this
stuff.
condition that we have right here.
No,
in the
that's
screen
and
share.
that's also like
Yeah.
an unlimited set. That's not first edition,
Okay,
This is
so-
like,
So this is
let's
worth. If you were to buy this, then Lou, what would you pay for this?
I
given
mean,
its
I'm giving you a hot 10.
$10.
$10.
Okay, all right, $10.
I'm being honest.
Show,
All right.
show some quality, bro. No white stuff.
Listen, man,
now I'm
this is
intrigued. Now I want to see some like.
So we're gonna go to the next card. So
Okay.
this Charizard card that I just showed you, $10.
Yeah, probably
Um,
like $10.
All right, this is the next
Ooh.
card in the arsenal.
This is
So,
better.
Lou, if you could please tell the people what we have here.
Again, very very similar. This is an unlimited set. Charizard, Blastoise, Hollow, unlimited. Has the shadow on the side. I would love to see the back. The centering is pretty decent on it. You can kind of see left to right that they look the same. Top to bottom's a little bit off, so I would say it's like 60-40, but it's pretty decent.
Now, what do you mean when you say from top to bottom? You lost me there. What does that
Okay,
mean?
yeah. Go back for 1 second.
Yep. I'll go back.
I didn't understand that
Yeah.
reference.
So obviously you see where the blue is, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then you see the yellow outline.
Yeah,
See how much space there of the yellow there is on top?
yeah.
Look on the bottom. There's a lot more
Oh, but that's
Oh.
something from like them
production.
when they print it. Oh, got you. Okay,
Yeah. So that's
So
that's all
that-
part of the process.
that dictates value.
100%.
Got you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me see. I'm
I
gonna
didn't even know
look
that
up a
was a thing.
PSA 10. I'm trying to see if first edition PSA 10 Charizard, just to give you an example of how it actually looks like when it's perfect. But keep going.
Yeah, so this is, and didn't, for the record, doesn't Logan Paul own like this fucking expensive ass Charizard?
Yeah,
Where's
so
the
Logan
shit on
Paul
his chain?
Yeah, he has a BGS 10, which is even harder to get than a PSA 10. That's very, very difficult.
What's BGS?
BGS is Beckett Grading Service. They used to have a magazine called Beckett, which was like a price guide. That was where it was like eBay before the internet, where you would get all of your monthly prices. You would get this magazine in the mail, and you would say, "All right, a Charizard is worth this much," and that's what you would sell it for. And that was before grading, all that. Then they started doing grading. Beckett is known as a much tougher grader. So if you can get a BGS 10, that means that card is perfect.
Wow.
And you think he bought that card?
He did buy that card.
And then just flexes?
Yeah, that's a big flex. I would
Yeah, that's a big flex.
If you're Logan Paul, that's definitely a flex.
Yeah, I could definitely fucking see that being a big fucking flex. I think he wore it to like WrestleMania or some shit.
He wears it all the time.
I would too. I mean, if you spent that card's like what, $1 million, right?
A BG. I mean, he's the only one who has it that I know of, so it's kind of like a you set the price situation.
I wonder what he paid for it.
So could I set my price to $1,000 for this Blastoise card?
Yeah, no one's gonna buy it, but you could set the price of that for sure.
Louis G, everybody.
You can set the price at whatever you want, my boy.
Man,
like that's on you.
Listen, I respect the realness. I respect the realness 1,000% of the way. This is why you're on the show, man. So this is the back of the card, and it's sort of based on what you told me about the Charizard card. Kind of have the same whitening on the
but
corner,
much
correct?
less.
Okay, gotcha. So if you were to ballpark, how much would this Blastoise card be worth, or how much would you give me for it?
Without grading?
Yeah, without grading.
I mean, I was being a little dramatic on the Charizard. The Charizard was probably like 20, 25, like that.
Damn, you're trying to lowball me, Lou?
He's softening up.
Well, no, because now I'm really gonna hurt your feelings here in a second, because this is probably like a $5 to $10 card, like that.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah,
$5 to $10.
Yeah,
okay. I mean, listen,
because
I'll tell you what I yeah.
To give you an example again, like a PSA 7 Charizard is worth like $350 right now. The PSA 7 Blastoise is probably like $100. So you have to factor in these things when you're buying them, right? Like in my head, I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going to buy this. I'm probably going to get a 6 or a 7 on this, maybe an 8 if I'm lucky, but I'm not going to get that. So I'm like, all right, it cost me $30 to grade it. I spend $10 on the card. I'm in it for 40. I got to sell it for 75. Like I'm making $35 after all my work. Like that's tough, you know?
Yeah. So far from what you're telling me, I don't feel too bad yet. And I'll tell you why, because I'll tell you what I sold these cards for in the collection, which probably consisted of maybe 100 cards after I show you the final card here that I wanted you to kind of talk over.
Is it going to be a Venusaur?
Yeah. How'd you know? So it is the Venusaur. So what would you say about this specific Venusaur card?
This one is in much better shape. This one looks really good. Again, unlimited. I don't see any scratches. The lighting's kind of tough, so it's a little bit hard to see the left, but I don't see any scratching. The centering left to right is a little bit tough. That's like 56. It's like 55, 45. Pretty good. Show me the back.
Yep, I will show you the back right now.
Ooh, that
clean. Clean. That's much better.
Please don't break my heart, Lou.
Wait, before you give him a price, let's hear your price, JP.
Yeah, let me hear what you did and where did you sell it. I want to know everything because there's a lot of ways this can go.
Okay, so for the record, are you guys cool if I stop sharing my screen?
Of course.
Do you have all the information visually that you need?
I feel very confident that I have the information.
You feel very confident. I love how I'm like making a trade over something that I don't have anymore. But so I sold those cards in my Pokemon collection back during the peak of COVID for a total of $800.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
And was that smart in retrospect?
You did a great job.
Fuck yeah.
He sold them high, right? He sold them high?
You sold at the peak of the Pokemon market, it sounds like. I might be a little bit low on my numbers, of course. Like, there's always, like, eBay to in-person sales are different, and I have the brain of a seller, and I'm thinking about it that way. So I might have gone a little bit low. You did very good. That Venusaur was probably like $30 because it's in much better shape.
Really? Damn.
Yeah. What was your number, JP? What was your heartbreak?
No, well, no. I mean, I was more concerned about it being worth a lot more than I thought it was. But I think once he mentioned
What number
it was
did
worth
you
it,
have? What number did you have in mind?
No, I didn't really have a number, to be honest with you. So the way that I did it was I just put up my Pokemon card collection and I put it on eBay. And originally, for what it's worth, I tried to like sell it for like an outrageous number because,
Of course, you
know, right, like you might get into that person that's like really hot, has really hot pockets, and wants to get into the market. So I put up the entire collection for $10,000. Stupid, right? Like no one,
How much?
No one's gonna pay $10,000.
Yeah, no one was paying that.
Yeah, no one's gonna fucking pay it. But the interesting thing,
Logan Paul shopping, nigga.
you never know. You never know. I was shooting for the fucking moon on that one, and so eventually I just came down, and I think I settled for an auction, and the final bid was like $800 for the entire collection.
Well, because
good.
Here's the thing: the hollows are always going to be. There's a bunch of reasons why that could have gone that way, and I would love to have seen the full auction, but like between people, you didn't know what you had, right? For sure. So you were looking at like you probably saw the charge I sell for 150K and you were like, holy shit, I'm retiring. You know what I mean? But you didn't know that it was the unlimited set and the grading stuff and all of that. And then so
I did do research. I did do research before I put it up. So I knew about like the shadow and all that other stuff. So I knew what I had, but it's difficult because again, I'm not like a professional at it. So it's sort of like I gauged based on what other people had. You're going to say something, Jay.
I just have a question.
Yes.
How, and this is for Lou. Lou, how did you know it was going to be that card?
Well, because those are the big three in the set. So I assume that he showed me the first two hollows. So I was like, all right, here comes the final one. And then probably the next one would be like a Pikachu. That's typically the way it goes.
Oh, those are like the top 4 Pokemon?
Yes, for sure.
Oh, I was waiting for Snorlax.
Nah, Snorlax is a legend, though. I do love Snorlax.
Like, where's my
remember
guy?
the game?
I think I might have had a Snorlax card.
And then you go, because that's Snorlax. No, never mind. I take that back. But like in the video game, there was that one level or like the one part of the map where it was the water, and I could never get around Snorlax. It was the most annoying part of the whole game.
There's some feelings with Snorlax.
Yeah, dude. I used to love Snorlax, though.
Snorlax was the man, for the record. So was COVID like the peak of the Pokemon trading world? Like, is that what, like, was it just because everyone was home and it was sort of like that? Like, why was that like the peak?
There's a lot of different reasons. I think that there were a lot of economic factors going on in the world during that COVID time. Everyone was home. Everyone had a little bit more disposable. People who had disposable income had a little bit more of it because they weren't going out. They weren't spending money on stuff. People were looking for ways to invest their money, and they didn't really know what else to do. And they heard about the sports card thing, and then everyone comes rushing in. And that's kind of how when something gets hot like that, people are just throwing money at something, especially where it's more of like a retail trading type of thing where regular everyday people can get involved. People are going to throw $100, $200, $1,000, $2,000 at it because they can, right? So that was definitely the peak. COVID, like early, I want to say like May of 2020 for like another year straight was just like red hot.
And that's also like, it's interesting too, because COVID was when you guys ended up starting your podcast
launched,
as well, right?
Yeah. That was like a random. I had no idea that what was going to happen ended up happening, and that was just how it happened to go.
So you guys all connected because you guys were all coworkers. You, Ryan, and who's the other gentleman on the show?
Ryan was not a coworker. Tyler and I were coworkers. Ryan was just someone who was a face and a name in the card world who had a bit of notoriety, and I happened to look him up because he was doing vlogs of like, hey, this is the National. So before I was going, I was looking into those vlogs, and I just happened to Instagram DM him and be like, hey, I'm a big fan. And he was like, thanks, man. And he happened to like Gary. So that was kind of the connection for that one.
So it all came together. I'm going to ask the question, which I'm sure you guys probably get a lot in your podcast, but who is the most knowledgeable one when it comes to cards?
Not even close. Ryan, by far.
Really?
Yes, Ryan has been involved for the longest. He knows he has a card shop. Like he runs a card shop every single day. Like it's not even close. I'm an idiot. Period. I'm especially an idiot in cards.
This guy gives himself no love.
It's true though. Like it's just like I'm very self-aware.
He's like the host of the show. Like he's just there to keep the show rolling and shit. Like,
I mean, I say it all the time. If we didn't have Ryan, we wouldn't have a show. I say that every week.
Wow,
but that's dope
love.
though.
That's love.
Yeah, that is love.
That's how JP feels about me.
I'm sure.
I mean, listen.
Listen, I mean, this guy gets the guess. It seems like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, that's sort of how it works, right? There's a dynamic here. You know, you kind of have to play to people's strengths.
Of course,
Gotcha.
yes, and that's by the way, that's like a very good example of like Ryan is really good at cards. He wasn't necessarily out there like talking about himself. He was just starting to do content that was outside of just like, here's a picture of a card, here's a card that I bought. Like showing Ryan Johnson was not something that he was very good at. He's gotten a lot better at it in the last 2 years for sure. But kind of where our dynamic is like me and Tyler kind of just like needle Ryan a little bit, and then like Ryan provides us with real knowledge, we have some fun, and then we hang up, you know.
But that's dope, though. I think that's because that's hard, right? Especially once the show starts to get bigger and then personalities come into play where, you know, in certain cases, it's like sports, right? Where certain people want to shine more than others. So how do you guys maintain that dynamic?
I don't know. I don't really think we think about it that often. It's kind of just like we kind of just get on the mics and talk. There's not a whole lot of
I feel like I made him think about that now, and he's going to go back on the show like, how the fuck do we keep this thing running?
No, it's just like we're just friends. So it's just like easy, you know? I think the hardest part was learning how to talk the three of us on a video call like this, where you're trying to like read the other person's mannerisms. When's the other person getting in? Ryan's kind of the person who drives the boat for our show, so he kind of sets the terms of the conversation, and that's helpful for us for sure. It's not like there's like ego, I guess, in terms of like who's getting the most. I don't think about that.
Who has the most mic time?
Yeah, I've never even said those words before.
I'm just trolling, bro.
No, I know, no, for real. But that's definitely a thing. Like people think about that a lot with like, how do we figure out our dynamic? And it's literally just time. I say it all the time. It's the only way you're going to get good at a podcast like this is if you just keep talking to each other and figure out each other's mannerisms and make it the best conversation possible.
No, that's true. I feel
me
like
and JP have come a long way from our first couple episodes.
For sure.
Together.
For sure. So like the interesting thing was, and not that I want to make this about myself, but like when we first started the podcast, I had started with a close friend of mine, right? And I think the dynamics of the home situation kind of got in the way. So about like episode 3, when I had a couple guests lined up, he was like, dude, this isn't for me. I can't do it. And I was like, bummed out about it, you know. And then we had Jay on one of the very first episodes, and he liked the vibe, he liked the energy, and he's like, you know what? You know what's crazy though? It's like he didn't ask. He was just like part of the show.
Yeah, it just fits in.
He was just like, so when are we recording the next guest? And I was like, all right, like dope, you know. But
so Jay kind of scammed his way into that. That sounds like a Jay.
I'm a shark, bro. I'm a shark.
He knew what he was doing. He was like,
I invite myself to places all the time, bro. I'm known for this shit.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it was like, and before I knew it, it was like, yo, I got a list of all these people that we could bring on the show, and I was like, okay, like let's rock. You know what I'm saying? And I think in time we've kind of built the chemistry. So Lou, like, how many episodes would you say it took before you guys were on the same page and in sync?
So we did 5 test shows that are dead and buried and will never be heard by anyone because they were so awful.
I think you should release one. I think it'd be interesting.
We talked about it. I wish we could. The files are gone. I would absolutely release them. They were so bad.
They burned the hard drive. Destroyed.
Oh, bro.
What was so bad about them?
We didn't know how to talk to each other. Like, we didn't know how to like flow a conversation. It was the first time any of us had really spoken into a mic for an extended period like that. And there's definitely a flow to this, right? Like, it's not as easy as like you just turn. I mean, eventually it gets to that point where like you can work with your podcast partner or partners and like get good at it. But at first, it's like you got to have a flow to the conversation. It's got to be like not truncated, but like segments, and like you got to know what you're doing and all that stuff. And something actually where we struggled was like we overdid it with the segments, and like we were overthinking it, trying to make it good, rather than like, oh, what people really want to hear is like me and Ryan go back and forth about Kirk Cousins, or like they want to hear Jay and John talk about like the one chip challenge. Like that's what people want to hear about. So the sooner you just like spend more time together and realize what's interesting is our conversation and like learning how to have a conversation. Once you learn how to do those things, like you're in business.
Yeah, and I think that's something we're figuring out now. You know, I think that the chemistry has definitely gotten a lot better. At least I think so, Jay. I mean, what do you
give him the look, and I'm like, yo, I got something to say, bro. Pass the rock.
Totally. Like that's definitely a thing. Like I've learned where like if I'm going back and forth with something, and I can feel that Ryan has a hot take he's ready to throw out, like I'll just lay out. Like I literally will just throw my hands up and just let him let him cook. You know what I'm saying?
But that's good
dope.
though. Like, yeah, no, like that's needed. I think we might have done one episode where I don't think I let Jay talk at all.
Bro, the guest at the end was like, Lou, listen to this. The guest was like, hey man, I think you should like pass the ball a little bit of Jay.
I was Kobe Bryant.
But
but Jay, sometimes you gotta like give me the ball. You know what I'm saying?
bro, I was in the corner with my hands up. Like I'm open. like fuck this
What's
guy.
that video? Is it the LeBron thing where J.R. Smith like has like a triple team
Yes.
and LeBron's like,
he's like,
yeah, that's
like,
what
right
that was. Jay.
bro, like in the end zone by myself.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was. We
We never released that episode though.
But you get
Nah, we
better.
never
You
did it.
You don't know how to do it because especially like I'm sure like you're trying to make sure you're having a good conversation. You're trying to make sure you get all your points across. And like unless Jay is like giving you the look or you know like the type of thing that Jay wants to talk about, you kind of just want to keep the conversation flowing because like awkward silence and stuff, all that stuff.
It is, yeah.
But like in his defense, like I'll defend him. Like that was probably our second show that we recorded together, and it was right after his bachelor party. Like I was exhausted. Like I was sitting on a chair like this, like half off the camera. Like I got to the point where I was like, "Yo, don't even put me back in the game."
He
This guy's like
tapped himself on the helmet and was like, "I'm good."
Yeah, like I need one.
Yeah, because that's like the tough thing about doing this, Lou, and you could attest to this, right? Is like you also have a life outside of this, right? And it sounds like you're involved in other podcasts as well, where you talk about the Jets. And so, like how do you maintain that energy throughout the course of the week, given your personal life and just everything that's happening in the world?
I'm very good at compartmentalizing stuff. I think that's something that it was a skill I learned with work, like working with Gary so much is like there's so many different things going on. You kind of just like put things in a shoebox. You pull out the shoebox, you work on it, and you put the shoebox away, and you move on to the next thing. So I kind of compartmentalize stuff really well, and these things are the most fun things I do. Like I'm in no disrespect to work or whatever, but like I'm in an Excel sheet all day. Like that's not the most like enthralling thing to do all day long. So when I get the opportunity to go on a microphone and talk about football or talk about cards, like that's just fun for me. I would do that. I do that in my free time. You know what I mean? So that's easy.
I'm sure. Which reminds me, right? Because I'm sure you have like an Excel sheet that tracks all your cards, don't you?
I got some stuff for sure. Yeah.
I got something.
You have some pivot tables, don't you?
You gotta take care of your inventory. If you're not taking care of your inventory, you're making mistakes.
That's why I don't think I could get into cards because like I'll compare it to my sneaker collection, right? Yo, I have sneakers that are in boxes that I don't even like recall what they even look like.
Bro, when I moved out of my apartment, I had so many sneakers that I had never worn that I ended up just donating because I was the exact same way. I had so much stuff from back in the day that I had never worn. I had like Kobe's and like all these random things that I didn't even know I had.
Money bags.
No, not money bags. Obviously, no. Actually, it was burnt money because I never wore them or sold them.
That's the thing with sneakers too, right? And I catch it at home for that because it's like I'll buy sneakers thinking I'm going to resell for like a big profit, and then they just end up in my fucking closet collecting dust.
Every sneaker I go after, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna flip this for profit, bro. A week later, those shits are on my feet.
I mean, bought these dunks. These were like lottery dunks that came out.
The lottery.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I bought these like
those are the ones you scratch off, right? I think you could scratch off.
Don't do it because if you do it, then it's that color forever.
Wait, what can I scratch off?
I think the Nike sign,
this I can
scratch off.
Yeah,
I believe
and
so.
It has like the bandana color under.
See, like this is like how stupid I am. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, so that's a double pack. They came out with a gray and white one, white, and black, and then green, white, and black.
Yeah, like I bought them. I wore them with the Jet game today because I was like, oh, these look nice. I probably should.
How was that Jet game, by the way?
It was.
You want to share on that?
It was ass. We could talk about it. It was ass.
How did old man Flacco look like?
Flacco was not great. It was not a good day. It was a bad day. It was a sad day.
Damn, I saw a clip of like my guy that works at MetLife, and he's done this for every Jet game. He shows all the fans leaving like early third quarter,
bro.
And his caption is always the same: "Where are you going?" Like there's still time left.
So can You know what's crazy? Like, I feel like did you ever think, Lou, like at a certain point, being a Jets fan, that you were just gonna like jump off and say, "Fuck it, I'm done. I'm just gonna root for another team"?
No, it's just too much a part of me. That's not. People are gonna. If anyone I know who hears this is gonna make fun of me because I used to be a Yankees fan when I was a kid, and I kind of like fell out of baseball and made my way over to the Astros, which is like blasphemy now. But the Jets are a different beast.
Wait, you're an Astros fan?
Wait.
What?
Yeah,
You're an Astros fan?
Really?
huge. Love the Astros, like almost as much as I love the Astros.
Why?
Why?
Because why and how?
Yeah, I'll walk you through it. So when I was a young kid, obviously like anyone else from this area, or you're either a Yankees or a Mets fan, I was a Yankees fan because of my dad. And then I kind of it's a little bit of a weird story, honestly. I was fading away from baseball. I was in 12 or 13, and my interests were changing. And I actually went to a Yankee game, and I was at a game where like a pitcher got a comebacker to the head and like went down, got carted off, like all this stuff. And it kind of freaked me out. And I was like not into baseball for a while. So there was like a 3-4 year period where I didn't watch baseball at all. And then in high school, I was like, I do this fantasy baseball thing. Like I'm trying to get back into it, have a rooting interest. My best friend, shout out to Matt, was a Astros fan because he loved Craig Biggio. Craig Biggio was his favorite player. He was an Astro for a long time. And at that time, it was 2011. They were coming off of like a run that they were having and were like about to be the worst team in baseball. And they went on to be that team for a while. And I was like, oh, this is great. They're going to be nothing. I won't have to worry about anything. I could just like the prospects because my fantasy baseball was like deep prospect league. So I was like, oh, this is cool. It's this George Springer guy, like Carlos Correa. I'll get excited about all these guys. And then like lo and behold, 2016, 2017 rolls around and they're like, themselves who they are now. And I'm in love with the Astros. I love them so much. I go to Houston at least once a year, all that stuff.
So like I don't know too much about baseball, and I think when it comes to like sports, sometimes it's like a cultural thing. Like depending on what like country you're from a Spanish perspective, you kind of lean more towards a specific sport.
Definitely.
But I know my college roommate was big into baseball, and he used to clown on the Astros so much. And he had told me once that there was a segment, I think it might have been on ESPN, where it was called "Name That Astro," because they had a bunch of players that like I guess were irrelevant or no one knew. So you went through some rough patches then as a fan, right?
Yeah, it was tough out there for a while, for sure. They lost 100 games like multiple times. They were really, really bad. But they were building up their organization and it worked out. Like what they built towards worked out, so it was all fine in the end,
And have you gone to like a Yankee Stadium to watch an Astros game live?
Yeah, Yankees fans are pieces of shit and they're like the worst people in the world. Yeah, they're scumbags.
What was the because I'm sure
you're a scumbag, Jay. I don't know what to tell you.
That is the greatest thing.
This is one of the first guests that bashes me on the show.
Yeah.
But it's all love. It's all love.
No, I know.
Nah, Lou, listen. No matter what, you've earned a couple points in my book, my guy. So you worn an Astros jersey to Yankee Stadium.
That's ballsy.
Post like cheating scandal and everything. I don't give a fuck.
Oh,
did you carry a garbage can with you?
No, because I'm not a loser like a Yankee fan who just cries every single day.
So take me through that experience. What was that like?
It was not fun. Yankees fans are bitter, entitled losers who think that like these kids who are like how old are you, Jay?
33.
So you're a little bit older than me. So you kind of have a little bit more of the championship like DNA in your system. These kids who are like these kids who are like 21, 24, 18 who have seen one World Series in their life and think they can just talk about the Yankees like they're just amazing franchise.
27.
They're morons. They're losers. And they go to these games and they act like assholes. Like I got shit thrown at me, like people talking shit to me, like people were following me after the game. Like it was bad. It was not a good time. And
that's ballsy, bro.
I say I won't go back, but if the Yankees happen to make it back to the ALCS, I will be at the ALCS Yankee Stadium 100%.
Would you say from a sports perspective, when it comes to opposing fans and players, would you say that Yankee fans are the worst?
In baseball?
Or just like in major sports? 'Cause I feel like Eagle fans are pretty fucking bad.
Eagle fans are pretty tough. I would say the toughest fans that I've experienced, Yankees fans are definitely the worst. It's not even close. I've been to playoff games at like a lot of different stadiums. Yankees fans are the worst. Raiders fans are really bad in football. Eagles fans I've actually never had a bad experience with.
Bro, Eagle fans, because you're in the AFC.
Yeah, that's probably right. Like I've been to Jets.
Fans are bad.
Yeah, I've been to Jets Eagle games and it wasn't that bad. Yankees fans are by far the worst though, in my experience.
Really?
They're
I think you're
really
just bashing me.
entitled losers.
Worse than Red Sox fans?
Not even
'Cause I know
close.
Red
I've been to a Red Sox Astros playoff game. People were like shaking my hand and like hugging me. It was great.
But that's Palestinians because I went to a Patriot Giant game, right? Like
Yes.
in 2019, took the road trip, and they were mad welcoming. I was like, so
Yeah,
surprised.
Patriots
Like, I
fans are
was
tough with Jets. I've been to Jets Patriots games. Those aren't great. Sorry, finish what you were saying.
No, you're good, you're good. And I was just like surprised at how nice people were. The stadium's outdated as fuck. Like,
Yeah, and it's also like I think it's just I lived here my entire life. I understand these people very well because I'm one of them. People from around here are just miserable. People are just like angry all the time.
tri-state area, we're fucking miserable fucks.
It's insane. Like we all just hate everyone and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, there is. So funny story about that too, just to kind of give the listeners a perspective of how different people are on the East Coast. When I went to LA to Santa Monica specifically when I was in college, just as a fucking random trip, right? And people there were super welcoming, super nice. And then when I got back to Jersey, I kid you not, I had left my car in the airport, and I guess I was coming to a stop sign, and some other guy came to a stop sign too, but I tried to go before he did. He rolled down his window. He was like, "Slow down, you fucking asshole!" And then that's when I knew that I was back in Jersey.
Yeah, it's
Like it's just that was like the welcome back moment, and it's fucking crazy to hear though that Yankee fans are the worst. And you had said that it was because of the younger generation. So does the same thing apply to cards? Where like in the card world, like the younger crowd is a little bit more savage?
Maybe, but it's different because
his reaction to that.
Yeah.
Like it said it all.
no, because the answer is yes, but I'm trying to be nice.
Well, that's why, yeah. He was looking at, like, you know what's crazy? I could tell he was like, how do I answer this the politically correct way?
I'm trying to be nice because kids are, you know how people, when we're young, everyone thinks they have all the answers, right? So
Cocky as fuck.
it's a lot of like people will come, like kids come up to me to make a deal, and like if I don't just give them what they want, they get mad, and it's like, why would I just pay you more because that's what you want? Yeah. So the answer is yes.
So I gotta ask, like, take me through one of the most recent stories when it came to dealing with a young buyer or a young seller.
That's hard, man. Again, it's tough because I don't want to say anything and make anyone upset. But I recently was. Here's a story of a buddy. I'll do that. This is a lot easier. So I have a friend who was looking for a very rare card. He's trying to complete a rainbow. So a rainbow is like inside of a set of cards. I'm going to show you an example of it right now.
Yeah. So, Jay, I think it's time for a commercial break.
And this week's episode is brought to you by Citibank. Make sure I cover my credit card number.
Can I just say, for the record, that was the most clutch fucking thing of all time. And we're back.
All right,
We're
so
back.
a rainbow is when they come out with these sets of cards. There's different numbered cards. Like I said before, there was the gold that was out of 50. They make all these different types, right? So like this is a gold Elijah Moore. This is an out of 10. Inside of football, gold is out of 10. Then there's blue shimmer. So blue shimmer is a thing that is like rarer. So this is out of 25. And then they have the
And
orange.
that's an Elijah Moore. They're all the same.
These are all Elijah Moore. So if you try to get all of them from the base card to the of 249 all the way down to the 101, it's called a rainbow. So I have a buddy who's trying to complete a rainbow, and this other guy has the 1 of 1 of the card that he wants. When you have the 1 of 1, you pretty much set your price and you can sell it for whatever you want. This guy just has an outsized estimate of the cost of this card, and he won't budge off of it. And they've been going back and forth, and like my buddy offered to like overpay the shit out of him. Like he really was gonna like give him, I want to say like 200% of the value of the card.
Wow.
And the guy just won't move off of it because he's like, well, I really like the guy. Like, I don't want to sell it. And it's like, well, then why would you even put it up for sale? But the part that's confusing to me is like people have this thing where they put a card up for sale, but they have an outrageous number on it. And it's like, well, then it's not for sale, because if you're not willing to move down to the market, then you don't have a sale to be done. So that is a convoluted story of a recent example.
Sort of like my Pokemon card collection for $10,000.
Fucking charged out
A lot like your $10,000 Charizard that no one was going to buy.
10,000. Yo, Lou's just fucking firing, yo.
I love
Louis G.
Here's the Elijah
Louis
if you guys
G.
want to see it. So that's like a one of
That's
one.
fucking nice.
It's black. Yeah, it means nothing to you guys.
There's no white marks on that one, right?
No, there's no white marks on this shit. No.
That shit sleeps under his pillow.
No, it goes in the safe at night, my boy. Like that doesn't come out.
Lou G, before I get to my next question, I just want to say that you're more than welcome to come back on the show, man. I love how real that you keep it, man. You are a real one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So if you feel comfortable answering this question, how much would you ballpark your rainbow collection there that you have, if you had to put a price on
this
it?
one? It's not complete, honestly, so it's hard to say.
So how many do you have opposed to like how many are you missing? Like what's the no, I said that backwards.
I know what you mean.
How many is the collection and how many do you have?
So I want to say I kind of gave. So what happened was I was doing a non-auto rainbow. So this is like just a regular card. I was trying to complete the rainbow for the non-auto. So I got down pretty far. I only needed like 5 or 6 more, including the one of one. But then I couldn't find the one of one. And then I happened to randomly come across the autograph one. Problem is, you can't mix rainbows. That's like bad etiquette. So like I would have had to restart my entire rainbow around the autographs, which I'm just not going to do. So
all these damn rules.
Yeah, and it's also like it's weird because it's like a self-created rule that like only applies if you care about it, but I for some reason care about it. So yeah, it's tough. I'll tell you what I paid for this. I paid $1,200 for this. So this I paid $1,200 for it in
my wife would kick my fucking ass if I spent that much money.
Bro, I get yelled at for sneakers when I get a sneaker box delivered.
Yo, you know what I do, Jay? This is how fucked up trained I am. When the sneakers come home, I take them out the box, and then I just fucking sneak them inside.
No, you guys can't lie to your wives like that. That's fucked up.
I'm not lying. I don't even do that. I'm just like, hey.
He's like, no, I don't do that.
I bought sneakers.
I've never done anything like that before.
No, because like I get here late. You know, I get here late. So she's home before I am.
In all fairness, I lie at the moment, but eventually I tell the truth.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair. Listen, I've had I've had a couple deliveries come in where it's like tough to explain what I'm doing. You know what I mean? We've all done it.
It's like that TikTok video, I think, where like it's like a background noise and the guy's like, "Oh no, they gave it to me. It was free.
How much did you pay?"
Yeah. No, it was given to me. It was free.
It's funny. There was a video that went viral like a year and a half ago on TikTok. This random chick with her boyfriend, like they were going back and forth, and she posted a video of like, I just came home. My boyfriend has a 5 Target bags filled with Pokemon cards, and he happened to get like a retail sale where he probably made like $2,000 that day, and no one in the comments had any idea. It was very, very fun.
You know what I wanted to ask too, like, and this is probably going to be a silly question, but I feel like I want to ask it anyways. Is there like a danger factor when it comes to like going to these card conventions with like your collection? So like, because I'm sure like
people got jumped.
Cautious?
Yeah, people got jumped. So at the card show this past summer, I heard a rumor that someone got jumped for like $40,000 outside the show.
One in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh.
So people walk around with security now. People walk around with their stuff like
security.
Oh yeah, people walk around with like briefcases with their cards. That's like handcuffed to them. Like that's pretty common.
In all fairness, though, I feel like if you're a card collector and you get like fucking murked outside of a card convention for like a Patrick Mahomes card, I feel like if you get to heaven, like God just has to let you in.
Yeah, dude,
right. Like
that's
I mean, like
tough,
at that
man.
point, like
it's weird because it's like I don't even want to bring my stuff outside. I really don't.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I keep a lot of my stuff,
crazy.
and I feel like I'm saying too much, but like I send stuff to I don't keep anything like that's that valuable.
What do you call the box in the bank?
Yeah, no, like safety deposit box. People do that. That's like very common.
Shit, I gotta get one of those.
Holy fuck, dude! Like I'm baffled that like there's people that go to these conventions with fucking security.
Yeah,
bro, I've learned so much about cards today that I think I want to start again.
You should. It's a good time.
Bro, I know what a rainbow collection is. I know all these terms that I didn't even know were a thing.
Well, so you know what's funny too, and I think, and I wanted to talk to you about this as well, because I sort of got into this specific card collection only because of the popularity of it. And I'm talking about specifically Dragon Ball. And I think I might have seen one of your reels, Lou, where you had mentioned that this is the time to collect or to pick up your cards because of the movie that just recently came out. So do movies and stuff like that play a factor in how expensive a card could be?
Yeah, it's an awareness game, right? Like I think a lot of, especially like vintage 90s, early 2000s type of stuff, people have had it for so long and you can't buy them new anymore, right? So when the new Marvel movie comes out that has the random character, the comic books, that the first comic book that features that hero or villain skyrockets because that person's back in the news. Or when a piece of art by an artist, like if Andy Warhol dies, I don't even know if Andy Warhol is dead or alive, but like when Andy Warhol died, I'm sure the price of his paintings all went through the roof. You know what I mean? It's just like an awareness factor. That's pretty much what dictates a lot of it.
Like when rappers die and their streams fucking go through the roof.
It's exactly like that. Like when a rapper dies and their Instagram followers go up like 20-30% or whatever. That's
like
exactly.
Who's even managing the page now?
That's
like real talk. I didn't know who PNB Rock was until.
Well, his
That's
fucking
what
streams
happens.
are like over 1 million. All his songs.
That's what happens.
Yeah,
bro.
no, it's
you know what the perk for him was? That he owns all his masters, so his fucking kids are getting all the money,
That's
which is a
good to
good
hear.
thing.
Oh, well, that's good. At least they're set for life.
It's a shitty
RIP
situation.
to
That situation was
PNB
crazy.
Rock. Yeah, it's a shitty
So
situation.
you can't let your girl fucking post everything on IG.
I'm sure it wasn't just that, bro. I'm sure there was a lot more to it.
I'm
than
sure
that.
there was other things behind the scenes. So Lou, like when it comes to like awareness, I'm sure the same applies when it comes to rookies in any specific sport, right? So like, do you guys like are people that analytical where they track someone's progression in the rookie year?
Yeah.
Like for example, like Jason Tatum, like a Jason Tatum rookie card. I'm sure today is worth a lot more than it was 2 to 3 years,
Mhm.
2 to 3 years ago, correct?
100%.
So do you just look at the stats the rookie year and do you say like what makes you say or what makes you advise people like, hey guys, my suggestion is you pick up this card for this specific player?
I do not advise anyone. I do not give out financial advice. If you listen
Smart
to
man.
what I do, that's on you because, like I said before, I'm an idiot. But speaking
This man is media trained.
speaking purely for myself, I think of things. I'm like a narrative kind of guy, so I think about things in terms of like what's the story behind this player, this card, how did they get there, right? So like stats play a role in that. When you're talking about baseball, right? Baseball prospecting is a big thing. Bowman is a thing that comes out every year. It's just their minor league cards. So when someone first gets drafted, right, they get a Bowman card like 3 months after they're drafted in this thing called Bowman Draft. And that is the card that everyone is looking for from the minute they get drafted until the minute they make it to the majors, which could be like a 7-year process. So like Anthony Volpe right now is a hot card. He only has a Bowman first. He's a Yankees prospect, going to be up next year. His cards are probably thousands of dollars right now. If I looked it up, I'm sure I could find it.
What?
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so like there's that part of it. So there's people who track that stuff and they track performance and like, oh, this guy's in a good position to come up to the majors. I'm going to grab some of his stuff right now. When he gets up and hits a home run, his card will go up 10% and I'll be able to make my 10% and move on. Then there's stuff where you have LeBron, to use LeBron as an example. People are saying to themselves, all right, LeBron's going to retire soon. He's going to go down as the first, second, or third best player of all time, depending who you ask. And then it's a question of, all right, that's pretty much baked into LeBron's prices, right? People are already saying he's the first, second, or third best player of all time. Is there something that LeBron's going to do post-career that will make him even more famous? Is he going to be a movie producer? Is he going to be a venture capitalist? Is he going to be the president? All of these types of things are stories that I kind of, not stories that I create in my head, but like situations that can arise that make sense. On a smaller scale, you bought Justin Herbert 3 months ago because you thought the Chargers were going to make the Super Bowl. You're like, all right, if I buy Justin Herbert now, and I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl in January or February, I'll be able to sell this card for 20%, 30%, 40% more. Here's some past examples of how this happened with Patrick Mahomes. This makes some sense. I'm going to run with it. So I kind of think of things in a narrative sense more than I do an analytical stats sense, because ultimately the story is what drives these prices more than performance does. There's plenty of guys who have better stats than Jason Tatum that sell for less money.
Wow. I feel like I've learned so much today, Jay.
Dude, I'm starting a collection.
Oh no, dude! Like I think I'm like, yeah, like I feel like my wife is gonna hate me even more now, and I'm gonna blame Lou G for everything going forward.
That's fine.
So
Do what you gotta do.
I'm gonna hit up Blue G for some advice.
No advice here.
No, I feel like that's a thin line to walk, just because if you do give some advice and it just fucking backfires, you
I have way too much guilt for that.
$200.
I have way too much guilt.
Yeah.
I would feel so bad if I ever pointed someone in the wrong direction. That would like ruin my soul.
Yeah, no, I could definitely imagine that. Yeah. Lou, listen, man, I would definitely, we would love to bring you back, man, for a second episode,
Let's
man,
do
and
it.
kind of pick your brain a little bit more. Last thing here, because I know we're a little bit over time, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote?
No, not really. I would say come check out Card Talk if you can. We come out every Wednesday. It's myself, Ryan, and Tyler, like we were saying. And then I also just started a show about the New York Jets and like other random stuff called Just Enough to Suffer. I do that with my friend named Greg. We just recorded an episode, like a live reaction. So we haven't really gotten there yet. We're trying to get in the flow of 2 episodes a week. We do a live reaction to a game on Sundays. And then Thursday, we try to have a guest to preview the upcoming game and kind of just talk about Jets World, talk about sports in general. It's kind of the place where I can like basically just get all my random thoughts off my head, and that's where that happens. So Just Enough to Suffer on YouTube, Card Talk, anywhere you can get podcasts, and on YouTube.
All right, Lou, listen, thank you so much, man, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be part of the show. I think, Jay, you were going to say something?
No, I said dope.
Oh, dope. Okay, cool.
Check out the shows.
Yeah, check out the show. People, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to rise up. Jay, always a pleasure, my guy. Until next time, people, peace.
Dope conversations, everyday people, learning life lessons, this is what we live for. Maybe perfect strangers, but we cut up like we kinfolk. We all have stories and all our stories should be told.